I'm Ted Berg, and this is the Baseball Show presented by Caesars Atlantic City. I'm joined today by Matthew Cerrone from MetsBlog.com, making his glorious return to the set of the Baseball Show. Matt, congratulations, first of all.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Matt, upon your return, you're a man from the internet, so what better to do than take some questions from the internet?
Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting time in Mets land, and we don't have any idea what to talk about. I guess there's too many topics, so I figure why not see what everybody else wants us to discuss. So
at the very least, it will be an easy way to get something to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So we got a question here on Twitter from Sammy Lev. He wants to basically know about K-Rod's trade situation, and does it make sense? Why is it such a foregone conclusion to move him? Does it make sense to trade him? Does it make sense to keep him maybe or try to renegotiate the option? I think it's a fair question. I wrote a little bit about it on Mets Blog yesterday, just to kind of kick this off, just briefly. A little back and forth with Tim Durkis on MLB Trade Rumors. We were trying to think about what K-Rod might get if he were to be a free agent. We both kind of figured around 3 years, $30 million if he was a free agent. Well, he's got 17.5 guaranteed to him in that option if it kicks in. So you got to figure out to incorporate that. So how would you handle that? Do you even think he should be back?
I think they got to try to trade K-Rod no matter what. I think they're going to look for a team with an established closer that's not going to use him in that role, to avoid having that option vest. And I think they've got to do it. I think that Alderson and his front office isn't going to want to spend that type of money on a back end of the bullpen guy. I think it's been shown you can find a guy for that role at least as good as K-Rod, because it's not like K-Rod is Mariano Rivera. And I think you can, not that anyone is,
No.
but I think you can find a guy and spend that money better elsewhere. So I don't think they're going to even want to spend 3 and 30, and not that K-Rod has been terrible, but I think that there are, more efficient ways to spend the limited resources that the Mets have.
It doesn't feel to me like something these guys would do either. Give $30 million to a guy with that type of role. It just doesn't feel like something they would do.
It's 70 innings,
right.
and
Exactly.
if you're talking about possibly the difference in signing Jose Reyes,
Right.
I mean it seems like a no-brainer.
That's the thing. I mean, the way I understand it, I think the money's there to sign Reyes with or without K-Rod. It's a matter of what else you can do, with K-Rod on the books. And speaking of Reyes, Corey NYC, we know Corey, he asks on Twitter about Reyes specifically. And will the DL, if he goes on the DL, will that impact, what kind of contract Reyes gets?
I don't know. I suppose. I mean, I guess the fact is the injury risk is always there with Reyes, right. And with every player. I was sort of wondering in my head today if there's some chance, and this is pure speculation, that the DL stint could spook Reyes and his agents into signing a deal quicker. Maybe, and maybe this is just Mets fan optimism, but because they see how fragile he could be, how fragile anybody can be, wanting to capitalize on the first half he's had.
That's been the bet for him all along. Do I ride out this season, hope to, stay healthy and use that as a bargaining chip, or, do I take what I can get now for fear of some kind of an injury hitting? And here we are. And this doesn't sound like it's a big deal, but it does kind of shake the cage a little bit.
And it's an injury. It's a different hamstring, but it's an injury he's had before.
I mean,
right?
ultimately, what do you think? I mean, I still go with the 5 year. I still think this comes down to a 6-year option. That 5 years is something the Mets would do. 7, I don't see another team doing that. And I think that 6 year, it's going to come down to whether or not they lock that in or do it as an option. What do you think?
I think I had a poll on earlier in the season before he even went completely off the hook nuts with his play, and my readers I think settled somewhere in that 6-year and $110 million range, and I think that's probably fair. I think,
but that's that 6 year.
Yeah,
that's the one.
That's the 6 year. I don't know. I mean, look, we're all biased by having seen him play every day, and if you look at it from if he were a Brewer, right, and he's a guy, and I'm a Mets fan, and he's a guy doing this in Milwaukee, and I'm not watching it every day and seeing how fun this is, and here's a guy with a batting average-driven career season coming off a couple of injuries. I don't know if I'd want to touch this, for that type of money, but as a fan, 6 years and $110 million, do it.
Sign him up. Sign our money. And then lastly, really quick, similar, vein, Beltran, why is it a foregone conclusion that he's gone? I know you're a huge, advocate of Carlos Beltran. I think he's awesome. I'm a big fan too, obviously. So, I mean, what do you think? Should they maybe try and think about bringing him back, or is it a guarantee that he's gone?
Well, on this show a couple days ago, I talked to Peter Gammons about Beltran. He actually pointed out that no team last year took on as much money as Beltran is slated to make for the rest of the season, which I thought was a good point. Now, Beltran, obviously every year is different. Beltran's having a great season, and there are some teams with that need, with maybe the financial flexibility to make that move this year. I think the reason...
But how about going next year? Would you bring him back next year? I mean, obviously, if you trade him, which I agree with you, I don't think there's really a market for him, and at this point, I think he's worth more in wins and attendance than he is for that one prospect you might get. But let's say he isn't traded and he's here. Do you offer him? Well, he can't offer him arbitration, but would you offer him another 1 year, maybe a 2 year? I don't know. Would you want him back? I know you would.
I want him back. I don't. I wonder honestly, with all of the, and who knows how much of it is perceived and how much of it is real. But what seems to be a fracture between his camp and the organization, or at least has been in the past. I wonder how badly he and his agents will want to be back, and obviously that plays a role. And you wonder if he's not more valuable to an American League team that can use him some as a DH and might give him a couple more years on a contract, knowing that he can slide into a DH role in the back end of that deal.
Absolutely. All contracts, all trades, all the time. You start to wonder if they ever even play on the field.
It's a good question, Matt.
Cool.
Matt, thanks so much.
You got it.
Remember, for all the latest on the Mets approaching the trade deadline, check out MetsBlog.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.